Dudes, Jason here with another tutorial for you guys. Again, this is going to be our third and last recreation of one of the animations done by Marcello Amanesis. Alright, again, probably spelling that wrong, sorry if you ever see this. But yeah, so this is what we're going to be recreating today. Excuse me. Alright, so we've got a couple of bouncing shapes going on, a nice quick transition, and then yeah, like a loop. So let's see what we can do. Alright, so I've made all my assets already. Again, I've made them mostly in Illustrator, simply because that is where my students are supposed to be focusing at the moment. But I've got everything that we need, and if I dive back into After Effects, you'll see that I've made those. I've also made the solid background color for the first sort of portion, and then I've got everything for the second portion as well. Alright, so I'm actually going to go ahead and split these up into their own compositions, put them into their own boxes to work with. Now the reason why I want to do that is it's going to give me a little bit of control when it comes to like the actual movement of the imagery. As well as just being an opportunity to show you guys the power of pre-compositions. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do, I have this information. I am going to hit Command or Control Shift C. That is going to bring up my PreCompose option, and I'm just going to call this Stage 1. Alright, you'll see that now everything has been placed inside, and Stage 1 is over here. Alright, so Stage 1 leads into our composition, which if I just quickly relabel, this will make more sense. Okay, now the cool thing about pre-compositions as well is that boxes within boxes within boxes, if we hit tab, it will bring up our little root options. Alright, so I can now jump back and forth between compositions, and if I had a massive sort of chain of pre-compositions all leading back to my root stage, I would be able to navigate that using this option. Alright, so yeah, we've got Stage 1, and let's dive straight into it. Alright, so if we take a look at our example, our blue square rotates and scales in, then we've got a sort of yellow ball with a trim path going on behind it, and then that scales out, and that's where we would then call the first stage. Alright, so let's just hide our circle, let's bring up the scale and rotation. Now this doesn't take place over too much time, so I'll give it about 12 frames. Have it there where I want it, and then what I can do is, we are recreating, so let's see, this brings in and it goes essentially clockwise. So I want it to go anti-clockwise. Alright, so let's call that like -180. And I can scale that up to be full. Now, obviously our example is square format set up for Instagram, but because we are rendering for full HD, that is what we will use. So we're just going to have to be sneaky and play around with that information a little bit. Okay, so there it goes in, dope. And then pretty much as it docks, so as it stops rotating, that's when the ball hits it, which means that one frame before I need my ball to be flying in. Alright, so here, yellow circle, and what we are going to do with you is, let us just quickly see, I think the scale wise it can be a little bit larger as well, so let's just maybe take that to like 110, and we're going to bring in position. Alrighty, so if we take a look, it comes in from top right, shoots across, hits just shy of bottom left. Alright, so let's get up in there. 2, 3, 4. Let's just give it 4 frames per action for now. Okay, so it's going to hit here. Then bounces up. Like so. Cool, we're getting that path there. I just want to grab my Convert Vertex tool, click on my anchor point, and I will get rid of that for me. Click over here as well. Alrighty, and then just shy of top center. Now you'll see that these are going past essentially one frame at a time, right? So it's almost like cell animation, right, frame by frame. But we do just want to take a look and see if there is any way to mitigate the need for it to be so precise with those frames. So if I can get it to sort of roll, okay, there, and then up. Maybe by adding like a frame or two in between, it might just be able to help add a little bit of smoothness to my own personal taste. Alright, but we'll see. I'm going to hit Control or Command R to bring up my rulers. Just drop that over there. That way I can make sure that my shape is on point. Okay, and then again we'll drop a horizontal ruler there. Doesn't have to be exactly right, it just gives me a good idea of where I could be. Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, now we've got that. Let's see how that goes. So that's okay. It is very sort of fast and sort of jumpy, but that is also the look that Mr. Amenesis has managed to create, and it's being offset by the wiggle or the change that's occurring on the box. That's the word. Okay, hardware not wanting to really work with me today. That's strange. Okay, so that goes ticka. Alright, and then I'll do the trim path in a moment. As it comes to rest, my square starts scaling up. Blue square. Let's just grab the scale here. And how did I 1, 2, 3? Essentially 3 frames for it to be full screen. So 1, 2, 3. Blow up that scale. And while that's happening, my yellow circle also increases slightly. There we go. So, maybe 1 frame later, we'll have the scale, and we're going to blow that up to about here. Okay, so you'll notice now that this is looking quite shit, right? Well, terrible. Excuse the language. And the reason for that is that obviously we've scaled it far beyond its sort of normal rate, and therefore it is pixelating. Alright, so what I can do to fix that is I can go to this continuous rasterization option, right? It's kind of like this little sun. And if I click that, what this does is, rather than just taking the information at face value, it's going to continuously rasterize it to kind of like keep the image as fresh as possible. And this is one of the major benefits of working with vector files, is that you can then continuously rasterize it for as long as you need to, and it's not going to pixelate, because you can just turn that pixelation issue off essentially. Okay, so my yellow square, yellow circle rather, needs to happen a little bit later. So let's do that. Okay, so I essentially actually just want to put that there. Let's shift this a little bit out. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do then, and I'll show you this in a moment, but one of the benefits of now having used a pre-composition is that I want to get the motion right for this ball. Okay, I don't want it to just sort of like snap to a massive size, but obviously in our example it goes from that and then cuts straight across, right? So I can essentially then just cut my pre-composition timeline here and jive straight into the next stage and then not have any issues. Okay, so I'm not going to be able to replicate it completely again just because of the square border, but this is kind of where, let's see, 1, 2, 3, yeah, this is kind of where I would end it. Okay, so currently, this thing's jumping around, that's looking all fine and dandy. Next thing that I want to do is I want to now create a trim path for that for the line. Alright, so what I can do there is I can just grab my pen tool, right, and then with a deselected, we're actually just going to follow where my ball is. So I'll create a dot there. Let's just make sure that it's going to continue for me, dot there. And essentially just trace along the path. Right, let's turn fill off. We'll give it a stroke for now. Make that stroke the right color. And we can also scale it up to kind of be the right thickness for now. Okay, so we are continuing. There we go. So now my ball hits here. Here. And then finally it comes to rest. Okay, so you'll see that we've got all these really sort of sharp edges now sticking outside the square. So what we can do with these is we can grab our convert vertex tool and we can introduce a very, very subtle arc to that, and that's just going to round out that corner for us. Alright, so notice that I'm not trying to adjust the path or add too much of a skew relationship to that path. I just want to mitigate my sharp angles. Alrighty, so with that done, I can now then adjust as necessary to make sure that it's touching where it needs to touch. And then what I can also do is if I just quickly move this point slightly out, you'll see that it is set in a butt cap, right? So it's a very straight edge with very sharp corners. So what I want to do, we'll call this trim path. Let's just make it yellow for the sake of it. Right, so what I can do is, before I add a trim path, I'm going to go into contents, I'm going to go into shape, and I'm going to go into stroke. Alright, stroke 1. So if I come down here, you'll see that I've got now a butt cap option here. I'm going to set that to round cap. You'll see then that it sort of pushes that out, makes it nice and round. And yep, that is then pretty much all we needed to do there. Just add a trim paths, and I'm just going to apply keyframes to all three of them so that I can grab what I need later without any hassles. Okay, and then I just need to grab my pen tool quickly and move this back. I'm going to change the labeling because that was a terrible idea. Let's make it purple. There we go. Okay, there we go. Now, this is just going to be, I say just, it's going to be a mission of timing. Alright, so essentially we're going to be using the trim path just to have it follow along. For those of you who aren't familiar with the trim path, what it essentially does is it says, cool, this is the entire line of this path, and I want it to either draw off, alright, draw on, or if I have a small amount, I can then change the offset so that that actually sort of like shoots around the line there. Alright, so playing around with these values, it can be very confusing. I still confuse myself to this day. So it's kind of just a case of moving what we think we need and then seeing if it will work. Alright, so I know from the start that I need this to be all the way at the back. Right, so I'm going to bring the end all the way down to 0, and my start is going to be set at 0 as well. Alright, and then if I just unsolo this quickly, okay, so that's going to be there. Okay, and then I'm going to stagger my start information. Okay, reason being, let's say that I put that here and push that there. Right, so you'll see that then that's how I get the idea of like a following tail that also then draws away. Alright, so that's why we stagger it, otherwise it would run at the same time and we wouldn't get any information out of it. Okay, so that goes there, there, there. So I need to be at this point here now. Okay. I'm just going to turn, sorry, I'm going to turn the transparency down just a little bit so I can actually see where my ball is. But yeah, so I'm just going to follow along this path. I'll jump ahead a little bit, and then I will check you guys in a couple of minutes. Okay, see ya. Okay, so I've got that intro now coming in, and I then just need to get it out. Alright, so yeah, just to let you know that that's what's going to happen next. Now I just have to adjust the start keyframes. So I will put it here. If we take a look at it, this line never actually really gets like too long. It does start off quite long in the start, obviously over there. But that's pretty much the extent of it. So what I can do is I can jump out to about here. It's okay that it's kind of overlapping with my ball there. I could actually probably have just had this stroke bouncing around pretending to be the ball, especially with my butt cap, but that's fine. We can leave that, so I'll just put that there. And at this point I want my line to be about that long. That's roughly where it is in the other video. And then as this ball bounces around, it gets shorter and shorter and shorter until eventually it disappears entirely. Okay, let's take a look at that quickly. Which means, okay, cool. So that's probably happened because of what happens if I delete this? Where's this keyframe coming from? Okay, I'll figure it out and I'll see you in the next step. Okay, there we go. So we've essentially got this now all planned out. That's fine. And if I look at the movement, I could probably, yeah, it's a very sort of like jagged movement. So what I could do, especially for the yellow circle, is I could try to get away with applying, I mean, we might not even need easing at this point. I kind of just want to keep this as short as possible. So the next thing that I want to jump into is how to make this composition bounce. Alright, so tab to bring up my little root option, otherwise obviously just clicking on the root where this is. So that is the length of my workspace. Alright, so I'm just going to right click and I'm going to say trim comp to work area, and that's going to cut it short for me here. Alright, so what that means is let's just turn all these off for now so we only see the yellow background. It's going to play and then it cuts for us. Okay, nice and simple. Cool. So what happens next? So there we jump, cuts to yellow, and we've got our blue square. Blue square scales up over the course of like 2 or 3 frames. All of these assets move in around it and animate, and then they all shrink and grow as necessary. Okay, so let's start off with my layout for that. Okay, I'm going to close you. And then I'll show you like the movement and the bouncing of this when we're done with the entire piece. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a null object. Alright, and this null object is going to be used to scale everything for me. So I'm going to call this scale null. And I am going to parent all of my shapes to that scale. Alright, again, to make sure that when I scale them up, that they don't pixelate or look horrible, I sort of zoom in here at 100%, and I just hit Control or Command A and turn on continuous rasterization for everything. There we go. Alright, so that's chilling there, and then it grows larger, so I can scale that down slightly to about there maybe. And then what I can do, boom, so that one scales up. Okay, cool. So this is pretty much where I'm going to have it. All right, this is where everything is going to be pushing from at the moment. So I'm going to set the scale key here. what I'm then going to do is I'm going to adjust the position of all of these shapes so that I can have them move off screen without showing up. Alright, so here, let's just do this. Here, position, let's give it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames. We'll just duplicate those keys. And then on top of these keys, I'm going to just move everything. So I'll do that. I'm kind of just going to move them, orientate their movement around where they sit on screen. So essentially just like diagonally, horizontally, and vertically. Okay. So see, that is quite a prominent shape, and that comes from below. Okay, well, looks like there is obviously a path to follow. So let's just quickly redo those. I'm just going to copy and duplicate these keyframes just to get everything back where they should be. Okay, this circle comes in from the side, triangle comes in from above. This one comes in from the side and then scales, so that's fine. That one kind of just moves in. Okay, magenta block comes in from below. Now the magenta block and the blue block we're actually going to have to replace. And the reason for that is because of the way that the scaling properties work in After Effects. So let's just get this done first. So it starts off here. Over the course of 3 frames, it scales up to its current size, which means that it needs to be slightly smaller. It's kind of where it's going to be its full size. So, oops, no, messing around with the wrong scale properties. Okay, so we need one there. And I'm just going to make this slightly smaller. So it scales up into everything. And then over the course of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll see that it actually sort of like stutters as it goes. So tuk tuk tuk. Alright. So that's not like a rendering issue, that is like a deliberate choice. So it'll go from here, it'll get smaller. So what I can actually do then is I can say here, toggle hold keyframe. Very next frame, I'll make it slightly smaller. That keyframe can actually happen about here. Then 1, 2, and the third one, so it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, a little bit smaller. And then it kind of scales down normally, so then this will be my last toggle hold keyframe. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Essentially, it's going to then move down to about here. I'll apply easing to both of these, but then I'll also set this one to toggle hold keyframe. One out. Go, scales down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, scales back up again slightly, so let's actually then just push that like so. Let's see, okay, if I apply easing to all of them, I do think these two need to be toggle hold keyframes. And it goes down like that. And we jump into our graph editor and we kind of just ease that out so it sort of pushes quickly and then comes back to rest. Okay, so let's see. There's definitely something peculiar about my scale. at the start, I think my square can start off being a lot smaller. There. 1, 2, 3. Let's just sort of like shift that up there. Okay. I'm not going to spend too much time again, so I just want to try and keep this as quick as possible. So this triangle is supposed to rotate as it comes in, so that's fine. We'll just do this. Make a rotation keyframe. Jump back. Just rotate anti-clockwise, which means we're going to push it in that direction. Maybe just about like 90 degrees. Maybe a little bit more. Let's just go with 180. Okay, so that looks like it's working. Okay, and then we've got those shapes there. So let's tackle this square now. All right. So if we take a look at our properties, all right. Let me just grab this and solo it for now. When I try and scale this, what happens is that when I try, its properties get distorted. Alright, now I don't know of a way to fix this inside of After Effects apart from generating copies and then using matte masks. So if you know a way, by all means, please give me a shout. I would love to have a better idea. But what we can do to sort of get that movement that we want to do is we're just going to create this shape inside of After Effects. Alright, so I've got my shape tool. I'm just going to drag this out. Obviously it doesn't help that it's so damn huge. But then I'm just going to adjust it. Like so. Maybe just make that like 18 there. 20. I'll call it at that. Okay, so there's our shape. What we can do is we can just quickly grab the color. So it looks like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to parent this shape. So we'll call this new rectangle 1, because there is going to be a second one. I'll mark it as fuchsia just so I know where it is. And then I'm going to find my pink rectangle and I'm going to parent it to that and turn my pink rectangle off. Alright, so now it should still do everything that we've told it to. Cool. However, the big difference is that, let me just lock this background. When I now go into the contents, rectangle path. Sorry, I just always forget where this one thing is. There we go, size. Alright, so inside rectangle path we have the option to then key its size, and if I unrestrain that, you'll see that no matter how far I stretch it, it's not pulling or sort of like stretching those strokes out. Alright, I'm going to hit U there. Let us see. So it comes in tall, and then it comes in about here, maybe 1 frame more. Yep. And then over the course of a couple of frames, very quickly actually, 1, 2, 3, is 3 frames essentially, and then it holds. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Play with its size, so we'll bring it down here. And it's going to move where its anchor point is, scale towards the anchor point. So that's also how we know that it's doing its job. And then it starts coming back out just before everything comes back up into place. So that would be here, I suppose. And I can then just copy paste that keyframe. So okay, kind of. We'll get back to the timing in a moment. Okay, got to do the exact same thing for the blue stroke square. All right, so what we're going to do is just quickly see what that motion looks like. it comes in also as a rectangle, and then it just scales down to a square and stays that way. Alright, so again, I'm then just going to quickly solo it. I can actually grab my new rectangle, pink one that I just made. Let us just move its angle right there. I'm going to duplicate it. We'll call this new rectangle 2, yeah, as it was. I'll label this blue quickly. Drop it over the blue stroke square, and let's quickly move it. There, essentially. Okay, I can then change its color. Change its color, say OK, and I'm going to parent that to that square as well. Okay. So it already has the keys on it, as you can see. So all I need to do is just adjust those. Let's go back to where they haven't been affected yet. And let's see what happens. So the square comes in tall, and then only really finishes becoming a normal square as the easing ends. So we'll do that. We'll set its keyframe there, and then as it goes down here, that is where. Okay, I just want to see quickly if this is going to work. Okay, so it should be fine from that point. Nope. Okay, so it looks as though the position essentially only works towards its immediate center. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to trick this a little bit. So we'll have that scale come down, and then we're also going to animate its position so that it doesn't float. Go. Maybe I'll just hide that one over there. Okay, so it looks slightly off, but that's fine for now. Let's see what else needs to be done. I do know that I need to now rotate these and also change their position. Okay, so it starts off there, it moves down, rotates anti-clockwise, and then or clockwise, and maybe just the render looks strange. So let's see, we need you, we need position, we need rotation. Okay, so that's there. We've got our position keyframe, rotation keyframe. Alright, so now as that moves down, okay, so it moves in perfect unity. So there we go, that is now going to move straight down. And I just want to move it back up again to there. Okay. Just want to make sure that I don't have any of those pathing issues. Again, just going to grab my convert vertex tool. I'm going to click on each of my points and just going to make sure that I don't have any issues there. Okay, so that one might just shift up just a little bit. What else? Okay, so that's kind of working. Let's then adjust its rotation. So if it starts off there, then I need it to go down and come to a rest. Rotate, 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 and it eases as my square is easing. I wonder Yeah, sure. Okay. Start off here. We've got our rotation. I'm going to go there, and we're just going to rotate it going like so. Okay, a bit fast, need a little bit of retiming, sure. Taking a look at, okay, so my red cross essentially does the exact same thing, but it spins in the opposite direction. So if my blue cross was going into the negative, then my red cross can go to positive 180. Okay, then what? Okay, so then it scales down, and then it actually shoots all the way back up again, and it cuts to blue. Yeah, because that essentially takes up the entire screen. So, let's find you here, and you're going to scale all the way back up to here. So, okay, so it's slightly off center, but I'll leave that for now. Okay, cool. It's getting there. A little bit of timing refinement, a little bit of messing around with the graph editor, spacing out my keyframes a little bit better, especially there. So that goes down. What I can actually do is I can quickly hit Command A, hit U for uniform, bring up all my keyframes. Oops, let's not do that. Let's grab all of our keyframes and let's just drag them out slightly. See how that goes. Okay, so that's looking, yeah, a little bit better. Let's just really make this contrasting there. Okay. And then I can actually kind of just drag that closer so that it ends sooner. Okay, so we're nearly done. What needs to happen next is we need to now rock the boat in our first section. Let's do this quickly. And I'm just going to lock everything that is in stage 1. Not solo, lock. Okay, so now we've got our stage 1, and that's what we need to sort of like bounce as our ball hits. So what we can do quickly, very quickly, is I'm going to hit Command or Control Y to make a solid. I'm going to make a solid that's sort of color over there. I'm going to put it below stage 1. Alright. The reason why I'm doing that is now when I move, okay, let me just turn this off for now and I'll show you. So I'm going to now key the movement of this entire composition for impact. Alright, so here's one of the impacts here, so I'm going to keyframe there. There's another one of the impacts. Impact. 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 Okay. Now if I move this, you'll see that I can see everything that's below it. Alright, but if I turn on the solid that I just made, that's just there. Okay, and I can jump to the very end of my stage 1, Option or Alt, and then close square bracket, and that's going to cut that solid for me there. Okay, so I just want to see this. So we have got our initial position. I am going to do toggle hold keyframe. And let's see, boom, hits. So move, then hit, slightly up, little bit, and I'm probably over exaggerating it a little bit too much, but we'll see. Okay, let me just center it. So there we go. So like a rough sort of bouncing effect going on. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers it. That should be the entire piece. If we sort of just go through it. Again, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but if I end it here, that should be a fairly solid loop. Okay, so again, a little bit of timing, a little bit of things like that, but I think the refining process, I'll leave up to you guys. I'm going to head out. I hope that this one made sense. Have a good break to those of my kids going off on their short break. To those of you enjoying that, do so. Enjoy it on my behalf as well. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Ciao.